Good morning, and welcome to the Alameda Connection on KCSM HD2. I'm your host, Scott Peeler. In a time when we witness televised tragedies, national protests, the glare of social media, and shifting attitudes toward the role of law enforcement, the definition of what is a good police department is forever changing. However, there is one constant: community involvement. My guest today is Chief Nishant Joshi, Chief of Police for the Alameda Police Department. A 22-year veteran of the Oakland Department, in June of 21, he was sworn in as Alameda's chief. We discuss the perception versus reality aspect of crime statistics, what it means to police an island, and a whole lot more. That's Chief Nishant Joshi of the Alameda Police Department this morning, the Alameda Connection on KCSM HD2. Good morning, Chief, and welcome to the Alameda Connection.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Start with your background. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Sure. I was born in Martinez, California.
Okay.
Grew up in the Bay Area, East Bay, primarily in the cities of Richmond and El Cerrito.
What led you to law enforcement? A lot of times that's a family thing. What led you down that path?
It's a long story, so I'm going to have to give a real short version of it.
That's okay.
My parents wanted me to be going into medicine. I had just finished touring a school overseas, a medical school.
Okay.
And I came back home, really started thinking about it, wasn't sure that I wanted to go that path. And I shared that with my father. I was actually inspired by a person who later he was a police officer in the city of Richmond. He later became the police chief in Martinez, California. He retired as a police chief of Martinez. And he was someone that I looked up to. He was someone that I was really fascinated by, and I would go on ride-alongs with him. I was a cadet for the Richmond Police Department. I knew that there was interest in public safety. So I told my dad I was going to go into law instead of medicine. One thing led to another. My dad started to see that I was really interested in policing and gave me a phone call and said, "Hey, I know you've always been interested in being a police officer. The Oakland Police Department is hiring. Why don't you go apply with them?" When he gave me the green light, I was all in, and I was super excited. So I've always been fascinated by police officers. I think that it's a very noble profession.
Right.
Being able to receive a call from somebody when they're at their all-time low is an honor in it of itself. And I come from a family of service. I come from a family of doing things for our community. And so this seemed to fit right in.
Did you pretty much start straight out of high school?
I graduated from high school in 1995. I was in college. I was a criminal justice major. I was actually 21 years old, still in college when I applied for the Oakland Police Department, and I got the job. I hadn't finished my college education at that point, but I knew that was something that was important to me, was to get my education. I took the job with the intention of going back to finish my education, and I did.
You joined Oakland PD about 98, and you were there until June of 21. What kept you there for 20 plus years?
It was an amazing experience. I had the opportunity to work around some incredible police officers. They were my mentors. They put me in positions to help me learn so much about the profession. I had a lot of fun assignments. I worked patrol. I worked in training. I worked undercover, narcotics. I was on the SWAT team. I ran a gang unit. The history of the city of Oakland has always been really fascinating to me. There's a history of activism. There is a history of trying to live, work, and play outside of a box,
right,
if you will. And I always found that to be fun and interesting and something that I wanted to be a part of. I did some really fun things in my career in Oakland. That's what kept me there.
Of all the things that you did, pick the one that was, yeah, that was great, and pick the one that's, I never want to do that again.
I don't know that I have one that I never want to do that again, because all of my experiences really helped guide me into who I am today. But the funnest experience, being a field training officer, having a rookie fresh out of the academy riding next to you in your police car and just wanting to succeed and seeing them succeed, that was fun. I had a lot of fun working undercover, and then also being the sergeant over the gang unit was fun, because I had an amazing team. I had the top officers of the police department. I got to handpick them, and to watch them in action and to be a part of that team was great.
What defines success for a gang unit?
Well, I'd say that success for any assignment in policing is seen by the community as legitimate, seen it by the community as a resource, being able to function well as a team, having high morale. High morale doesn't mean having great days every single day.
Right.
High morale to me is understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing and finding the most effective and efficient way to accomplish that while having community support and being seen as legitimate in the community.
While you're attending Cal State East Bay for criminal justice, you wind up meeting your wife, Holly. You wind up both being officers. What was that like?
Yeah. So as I said earlier, I did go back. I met her in college. I was a police officer. I later found out that she was in the process to be a police officer. And of all police departments, it was the Oakland Police Department. So we became really good friends. We were study buddies. She came to OPD. I'd always check in with her. She checked back with me, and we maintained our friendship. We actually became partners.
Oh, really?
Yes, working undercover
There is
together.
a sitcom here.
Yeah, yeah. No, she and I worked undercover. We set some records buying narcotics. It was fun working with her. I always had a crush on her, but I maintained my professionalism. And then one thing led to another. We started dating and got married. It's really cool to have somebody who understands the work that we do, because law enforcement it's a tough job.
Sure.
There's a lot that goes into that. She is to this day my best friend. She's someone that I can rely on. She's someone I can run things by. And as police officers, we did that for each other. Now, she left the police department after serving for about 15 years, went into the nonprofit world, and then came back to the city of Oakland full circle. And now she's the chief of the Department of Violence Prevention.
What would you say are the rewards and the challenges of being in Oakland and policing in Oakland?
I learned some of the best policing at the Oakland Police Department, but I also learned there were some mistakes that have been made. Not just in Oakland, every police department has its mistakes, and we had to learn and grow from those things. The police department that I came to in 1998 and the police department that's there now are two totally different police departments. Going back to your question of what was it like as far as all the press coverage, I think that it kept you sharp. It kept you nimble. It kept you aware. It kept you thinking. As I said earlier, Oakland has always been a city of not just comfortable with status quo and asking questions. As servants of the community has questions we should answer, we have to answer. And if we don't have answers, we have to actually really look inward and figure out, why don't we have these answers? To be reflective in this type of profession is important.
You talked about the time with the gang unit. Is there anything else from Oakland you look back and you go, yeah, that was really good?
I became the captain over the training division.
Okay.
That role allowed me to be the director of the police academy. I think that training is key and critical in any profession, particularly in policing, though. Being able to be the academy director and the captain over the training division was extremely rewarding. I like to see people succeed. I like to see people come into the profession. We hire people because of their character. To do the job of policing, if you come in with humility and courage and a desire to learn, you're going to be successful. When they come into the academy, they have a lot of those qualities. To be able to oversee amazing staff at the Oakland Police Department Academy, seeing them take a young officer or a brand new officer, they're not always young, but a brand new officer, and take them to levels that they probably didn't even believe that they could accomplish themselves, it was extremely rewarding.
June of 21, you assumed the role of chief here in Alameda. What led to you coming across the bridge?
So I live here in Alameda.
Okay.
Right. Not very many people know this. Probably about 2.5, 3 years before the job was ever announced, my wife and I were having lunch here in Alameda. It was actually at Q's Halal. I'm having a conversation with her about something, and all of a sudden she just stops and says, "You're going to be the police chief in Alameda." I said, "What?" And she said, "You're going to be the police chief in Alameda. I feel like you're going to be the police chief here in Alameda someday." It was never on my radar. My plan was to retire from the Oakland Police Department and go as high as I could.
Okay.
I definitely didn't think I was going to be leaving the Oakland Police Department. The opportunity came up. I was a captain at the time. During the hiring process, I got promoted to deputy chief in Oakland. The idea to be able to work in the city that I live in, that I'm raising my family in, yes, it's a professional responsibility, but definitely feels personal as well. My connection to this community is beyond a 9 to 5. It's 24/7. I care about the success of this community. I care about the success of Alameda. And so being the chief here is an honor.
You took the position literally 2 months after the death of Mario Gonzalez. What was that like, stepping into that environment?
First of all, I want to call out, it was tragic. Anytime somebody loses their life, this was a time and an opportunity for me to demonstrate leadership. One, bring the things that I knew and understood from Oakland, but be a person that could bridge a gap between the community and the police department. Anytime tragedy hits, people are unsure. People are confused, they're concerned, and that's where leadership is important. Fortunately, I had the support of the city council, the leadership in the police department, and the leadership of stakeholders outside of the police department. Really were able to help navigate that situation.
One aspect of Alameda Police that got literally national attention, the $75,000 signing bonus. How did that come about? How is it working?
So it's the largest bonus in the country. The way that came about was a new city manager came to Alameda, Jennifer Ott. She's
Right.
currently the city manager in Hayward. She came to me and asked, "What do you need?" "I need staffing." I looked at the historicals of staffing here in Alameda. Since 2009, it's been consistently going downward. We got down to about a 25%, almost a 30% vacancy rate
Wow.
for staffing here at APD. I told city manager Ott that we needed to get more staffing. She said, "All right, let's do it." I said, "Well, it's a little complicated."
Right.
There's a lot of variables to that. And she said, "I understand that, but what's it going to take to get them here?" She actually, to her credit, she stepped back and said, "Well, why is it so hard to get
Right.
them here?" I explained to her, I said, "Well, at the time, there's a negative sentiment
Mhm.
about policing. There was a defund the police
Right.
that was out there. And when I came on, there were 2,000 people lined up to take a test for 34 seats in the police academy because people wanted to be police officers.
Right.
They were regarded and held in such a high place. But at that time, when I first just got here to Alameda, that wasn't so much the case. The other thing is housing. It's
Right.
expensive to live here in
Sure.
the Bay Area. To me, the housing situation, that's a technical fix. If we can offer a bonus, I've crunched the numbers on what it costs to rent a place here. My vision was that if an applicant applies to the Alameda Police Department, gets hired here, they rent a place either here in Alameda or nearby, they fall in love with the community and they
Right.
say, "I want to continue to be a part of it." Well, $75,000 can cover 2 years of your living expense. And then that also gives them an opportunity that as they're building their salary, they can build enough of a nest egg to maybe buy their own place. We crunched the numbers, came up with that 75,000 and rolled it out. How successful has it been? It's been one contributing factor to us getting high interest applicants that are interested in policing. But we're still very selective. We still have a very high standard here in Alameda. We are slowly but surely closing those gaps. I am hoping by the end of the year that we will be 10 or 12 people short. So that's okay. The average
Right.
vacancy rate in Alameda County is for a police department.
When officers come aboard in Alameda, what do they wind up liking about being an officer in Alameda?
I think that this community is very supportive of the police department. I think that the high level of customer service that the Alameda Police Department delivers is second to none. It far exceeds what industry standards are, what most other police departments are doing. When I first started my career, the Alameda Police Department was looked at as that top tier, high level of service police department. We pride ourselves on that. That's something that's been around for many, many years. I credit former police chief Bernie Matthews for establishing that reputation.
Let's flip the question a little bit. What is it about your job that makes you say, I like being the Alameda Chief of Police?
I love being the Alameda Police Chief. I sometimes ride my bicycle to work
Right.
because I live in town. I love being a part of this community
Mhm.
and I love being able to serve the community that I'm a part of. And that's important to me. That's my intrinsic reason. The people that I'm most inspired by at this police department are rank and file, both sworn and professional staff.
Okay.
When I see the amazing work that they are doing, I'm inspired by them. That's why I love being the Alameda Police Chief. I see my officers, I see my professional staff coming in and day out and working hard and putting their best foot forward. I watch their interactions on video and I see the level of professionalism. I read the surveys that we push out and hear the amazing work that's being done. I read the letters and emails that come to my office and I'm able to see that. I got to pinch myself sometimes. I can't believe that I'm working in the city that I live in. I have the honor of being a police chief and I see my neighbors out and about and I love Alameda.
I've engaged with your officers on a few occasions, had a traffic accident, no parking sign for a move, things like that, witness to something. Everyone is always friendly, always professional. Where does that come from? Because I've yet to encounter an officer on this island where I go, gee, they might want to switch to decaf.
Yeah. That is the reputation of this police department. It's a value that's been here for many years. We actually assess our performance on a regular basis, both by having supervisors going out to scenes, and then we have technology that also reviews our officers' interactions. In fact, we leverage technology so much that every single one of our body cams are reviewed using technology. That technology reveals to us when an officer has done an amazing job, and then we praise that officer both among their squad and then one-on-one with that officer and let them know this call that you're on, you delivered a high level of service.
There's a lot of discussion about what makes a good cop. What makes a good Alameda cop?
a commitment to this community,
Mhm.
meaning a desire to help this community, not being an occupying presence,
Right.
but being a resource. When I first got here, I was seeing calls for service where officers were helping people find their cars that were parked in a parking lot, right? To be a top-notch Alameda cop, you got to be humble to learn, eager to serve, and really of high integrity.
This next question is actually asked in a very lighthearted standpoint. Alameda used to have a reputation for, good heavens, do not go over 25 miles an hour. What changed?
The number of traffic enforcement stops that we've consistently done, it's double, tripling every single year since I've come here. What's different is that I think if somebody goes 26 over the speed limit, I'm not sure that they should get a ticket. Now, if you're doing 35, that's
Right.
dangerous, right?
Right.
That's clearly well over the
Mhm.
speed limit. We do enforcement stops, but social media, when people are able to tell a story of like, I can't believe somebody sped down the
Right.
street. Well, people have
Right.
always been speeding down the street. Your ability to communicate and let thousands of people know, and we're listening,
Right.
we're paying attention, and so we go out to these neighborhoods where there's speeding or there's concerns about traffic enforcement. I can tell you right now, our officers absolutely prioritize traffic. In fact, I make sure that all my staff know what their talk points are. TOC, not TALK. Talk, that's traffic, outreach, and crime. You need to know all those three
Right.
areas on your beat or in the areas that you're working, and so traffic obviously is a high priority.
You bring up a point that it's got to be different and recent in policing in an era of social media.
Absolutely. I looked at burglaries in the 80s. They were almost 4 times what they are today.
Mm.
But people thought that there was no crime back in the
Right.
80s because when somebody was burglarized, the way that you would communicate with somebody would maybe be by a letter.
Mhm.
You'd write a letter. You may get on the phone and call and tell your small circle. I have about 5 people that I regularly talk
Right.
to. So I might tell those 5 people. But if I can post something on social media, people I don't even know, I have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 people that become aware of it. You can push out information far
Right.
more rapidly. So again, we pay attention to the information because although our crime numbers have consistently gone down, we have had double-digit reductions in all crime in Alameda for the past 2 years. And now we're continuing that in this year, the third year. We approach public safety in Alameda like it's a business. We review crime on a 24-hour, a 72-hour, a 96-hour, 2-week, and 4-week basis. And we're looking at it almost like people look at the stock market. And
Sure.
we're looking at where are our trends, where are we seeing spikes in crime, and how do we get ahead of that? And you can't just do it once. And I give all credit to the rank and file. Those are the folks that are out there putting in the work. Command staff, I mean, we have the time to be able to look at the numbers and provide the information, but it's the brilliant geniuses that are out there pushing a beat car that are taking that information and putting them into action. Even though we have quantitative data that says
Right.
that crime is down, qualitative data is important, and that's people's perceptions. So we can have as much low crime as anywhere, but if people don't feel safe, it's our job to inform our community on what
Mhm.
our wins are, what are we doing well at, and what are our vulnerabilities as well. Knowledge is power, and knowledge creates confidence. And when our community knows what's going on in as far as public safety in Alameda, the perception and the fear of crime is diminished. I'm proud to report that when we have these surveys that go out on every call for service, we ask our community members, how safe do you feel in Alameda? But think about that. This person is taking that survey after they've called 911.
Right.
To have a police officer come out and for them to still say, I feel extremely safe in Alameda is incredible.
License plate leaders, drones, these are tools that are helping APD catch criminals. There are some real concerns over privacy issues. How do you juggle that?
Let's just start with license plate readers.
Mhm.
You want license plate readers, the cameras that we have in place that are taking photos of just the license plate. You and I can be license plate readers. If we stood outside on the corner right here, pulled out our cameras
Right.
and started videotaping every car that drove by, it's probably going to show who's in the car, which direction they're
Right.
going. Just a lot of information is going to be on that. We're not interested in that. I'm
Right.
interested in solving crimes, and I don't necessarily need to know what stores do people go to. These vehicles, if they're not involved in a crime, that information is purged very quickly. The courts have already ruled that photographs of license plates, we don't get to know anything about you, who you are, anything like that. There are other steps that have to occur in
Mhm.
order to figure that out. Meaning, if our license plate reader read your license plate, it's not going to say Scott so-and-so at
Right.
this address. It doesn't provide that information. Now, if the car comes back stolen or
Right.
that vehicle was used in some type of a crime, we'll be alerted to that. And then we'll stop the car, we'll run the license plate out, and you have to go into different databases. I understand that people have a concern about privacy, but it's important for us as a police department to educate our community on what these license plate readers actually do.
You and APD have been very supportive through things like the No Kings protests. What's your philosophy on how to handle something like that?
As a police chief, my job is to uphold democracy. So we haven't had any issues with any of the protests here in Alameda. You hear about the things that we've heard about that have occurred
Right.
in the Bay Area, and particularly even in Alameda. I think about my wife and her family when they came from Jim Crow, Mississippi.
Right.
Alameda was their first stop, as many African Americans were leaving the South to come to California. To see that we have a community that is exercising their First Amendment right to demonstrate is incredible, and it's my job to ensure that democracy is safeguarded in our country. I ensure that this police department safeguards everyone's constitutional right to demonstrate. My philosophy is that I will do my job. That is what makes our country great. That is what makes our country a place that people want to come to. My parents came to this country. They immigrated to this country because of all the opportunities that were here. It's important for community to exercise their voice, and I will protect them.
How do you get the officer out there and connected?
We're very intentional. We hold community meetings. We go to the community. We encourage and expect our officers to engage with our community members, not just in an enforcement posture, not just when things are bad, but things like Coffee with a Cop. We have Community Police Academy here so that the community can get to come into our police department, see the things that we do. When I was in Oakland, I did homework with a cop in addition to Coffee with a Cop. We just find different opportunities to do things that are just outside of that. I have recently stood up a bicycle patrol unit. You might see them out patrolling around. Our officers love riding the bikes around and interacting with the community. If you get a chance, look at our social media page.
You do have good socials.
I'm really proud of what the things that our officers do as far as outreach. Everyone needs to know their talk points in Alameda, and at the Alameda Police Department. It says traffic and outreach. Outreach means know what schools are on your beat, know what businesses are on your beat, and what other influential stakeholders are on your beat, and make time to go out and interact with folks. And so we do a really good job at that.
Who are the people in APD who don't get enough credit from the public?
I would say that our rank and file, they get a lot of credit, and sometimes they don't get enough credit, both sworn and professional staff. I think about our dispatchers. Every time a phone call comes into the Alameda Police Department, they're the first people that are receiving those calls. I think about the folks that are down in the records department. I think of our technicians. I think of our line level police officers and their sergeants. Those are the folks that deserve all the credit. I'm inspired by them because they show up every single day working hard with their best foot forward. They're critical. I want to give them a shout out right here, right now, to recognize them as well.
My very first exposure to APD was actually Elena Inesco from Animal Control. She's a delight and so involved with community via socials, and you added Emily Crum. How great are your ACOs?
Oh my goodness. They're incredible. They are incredible. They love doing their jobs as well. And I love animals. I love dogs. Every time they come across a puppy or something like that, they're so awesome. They'll call me and say, Chief, are you in your office? And they'll bring the puppy by so I can play with the puppy for a little bit. They love their jobs. They're an amazing team together. They do incredible work, and they just love doing their jobs, and they don't complain about anything. And they're just looking for the work. So they are great. They're amazing.
What are the oddities of policing an island?
There's an advantage to that. We have limited number of entry and exit points to the island. Talk about being in the heart of the bay. I don't know if I'd call it oddities. I actually see them as it's a benefit. It's an advantage. Now, the risk, though, is that if we were to have some type of a disaster or a natural disaster, things like that, it might be difficult getting people on and off of the island.
Right.
Myself and the fire chief, we work closely together with our city leadership. We have a plan if something like that were to happen.
We all want to eliminate big crimes. What's one minor misdemeanor irritant that you wish you could just wipe away?
Shoplifting.
Okay.
Yeah, shoplifting. I think that it could even be demoralizing to the employees at these retail establishments where someone just walks in and walks out with goods. Now, shoplifting isn't anything new. People have been shoplifting since the beginning of whenever, right? But that's one thing that I wish we could make go away. And I think that, again, those numbers have dramatically dropped here in Alameda as well. But the fact that they still persist, they're annoying to me. But they are the drivers of crime here in Alameda, of our crime numbers. We have very little violent crime here in Alameda. Most of our crime is around property crimes, and that's theft.
What's a fundamental safety tip that you wish more members of the public would latch onto and understand?
Building a relationship with the police department, knowing when we have our community meetings, because if you attend those community meetings, you get to know what's actually going on and what's not going on. When there's misinformation that gets out there, I think it creates unnecessary fear, unnecessary angst.
Going to ask you to jump up on my soapbox for a minute. Talk to parents about e-bikes, because I'm seeing a lot of behavior on the island that, especially as an ex-motorcyclist, just disturbs me. It doesn't end well. What would you say to parents?
Just last week, I was actually on my way home. I saw this kid on an e-bike and he was zipping down Hartney. I pulled him over, identified myself, showed him my badge. I said, "Hey, how old are you?" And he said, "I'm 14. I said, "Do you know the dangers of what you're doing out here?" Got his parents' phone numbers. Look, parenting is tough, but if we're intentional and our kids know what our expectations are, parents need to know that these e-bikes are dangerous. First of all, a 14-year-old driving that is illegal. Even above that is a safety. You go down at 25 miles an hour, there's some significant damage that can happen. I mean, you're a motorcyclist yourself. Right. You know how dangerous. 2 wheels is never going to be as safe as 4 wheels.
No.
As parents, it's tough. We have to set boundaries with our kids. But I think if we educate our kids, educate ourselves, I want to caution some parents. There are some cities that after a police officer has informed a parent that these e-bikes are unsafe, and if the parents continue to allow these kids to ride these e-bikes and get into accidents, there have been some child neglect, child abuse cases that are being lodged. And I would hate for any parent in Alameda to have that same experience. It seems like something that should be able to be talked about at home. When kids are old enough or are able to drive these things responsibly, then that's the right time to do it.
What has you excited about the future of Alameda?
Alameda is just different than most other communities. It really is. I think that there is a lot of economic growth on the horizon for the city of Alameda. I think we have good leadership in all of our departments. I think this community is absolutely the perfect blend of community. I don't know exactly what it is going to look like, but I'm planning on staying here. I'm going to get old here in Alameda.
What does Chief Joshi do to relax?
I'll tell you 3 things I love to do. I love to go to the gym with my wife. As I've gotten older, she's gotten me into yoga and Pilates. So yes, I do that. We go on walks almost every night. I love to cook. We cook together, whether it's we have an outdoor kitchen or indoor when it's raining, but we like to try different recipes and things like that. And then playing with my French bulldog.
Okay.
So those are the things I like to do to relax for sure.
This is the question that everybody gets, and everybody gets mad at me for getting it because they don't want to leave anybody out. But you've got company coming in from out of town, and you have to take them out to 3 meals. Now, it could be 3 dinners. It could be breakfast, lunch, dinner. It could be small bites and notches. What 3 restaurants are you going to here in Alameda?
Oh, wow. Okay. We have so many amazing restaurants.
It's ridiculous.
So if I leave anybody out, anyone who I've gone to, my bad. But I will say this: my go-tos are Banh Mi. That's something that we often go to. I like going to Oganes with my friends.
Yes.
Because
that is a hidden gem. They are delightful,
aren't they?
Yeah.
And so I don't eat the whole day. So like when my son, he comes up from college, I won't eat anything all day. I'm like, I'm going to save all my calories for Ogane. And then what else? You can never go wrong with Cafe Jolie.
True.
That's a good solid staple. So those are probably my 3. I think there's a breakfast at Cafe Jolie. Then there's, lunch at Ogane and a nice dinner at Banh Mi.
I like it. You talked about the community meeting sessions. How can people keep track of where they are and what's up?
Go to our website, click on a link. You have to enter your address, and it'll tell you what beat you live on, and then it'll give you a schedule of when your community meeting is.
And in general, website, socials.
Follow the Alameda Police Department's Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Don't follow. I mean, you're welcome to follow other sources of information, but if you're looking for accurate, timely information, go to our website, our social media platforms. You'll get the best information that way. We're very active, as you've probably seen our social media. We try to put information out quite regularly.
Chief Nishant Joshi of the Alameda Police Department, thank you so much for spending time with us on the Alameda Connection.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And if you see me out there, please don't hesitate to come up and say hello. I'd love to meet you, shake your hand. And if I've got my French bulldog with me, introduce you to Booker.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Thanks again to Chief Nishant Joshi of the Alameda Police Department for spending time with us here on the Alameda Connection. To keep up with APD online, head to their website, alamedapolice.org. That actually redirects to the city's website, but it's the easiest way to remember it. On Facebook, @AlamedaPD, and on Instagram, @AlamedaPolice. If you don't have APD's non-emergency number in your phone, take a note, 510-337-8340. Coming up next week on the Alameda Connection, my guest will be Abby Thorne Lyman, the Director of Base Reuse and Economic Development for the City of Alameda. Believe it or not, next year marks 30 years since the closure of Naval Air Station Alameda. Don't forget, you can head to bayarearadio.org and cast your vote for the Bay Area Audiocaster of the Year. Thanks as always to guitarist Bill Hart for our theme music, Beachside Isle. I'm Scott Peeler. I'll catch you next Sunday morning, 8 a.m., the Alameda Connection, right here on KCSM HD2.